Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is the week of June the 9th, 2022, and our current challenge is Arkham Knight Catwoman. It's a one-week repeat. The required characters are Green Lantern, Nightwing, and Joker, who are available as cheaply as bronze, and silver in the store. Her passive is Cat and Mouse. Catwoman's damage over time attacks cannot be rinsed by tagging out. The damage over time becomes more powerful with each Arkham Knight character on her team. She's got 1300 attack and 1000 health. She was last available August 12th, 2021. And she's got really good middle class stats, but they are better because they are the way we like them, with more of her base stat in the attack. And I want to say it's not controversial. She's probably the single best damage over time specialist because of the inability to rinse. We've got a playlist with a whole lot of variations on a Arkham Knight Catwoman team just to show you how good she is. The obvious teammates would be Arkham Knight teammates. Arkham and Arkham Origin teammates do not increase your damage over time. Only Arkham Knight teammates do. The other interesting thing is, unlike gears that give you damage over time, the amount of damage over time that she gives is tied to the minigame that determines how much damage her special actually does. So independent of the one where you get to 100 or to 200%, the more you do, the more damage over time she does. The obvious gear, besides the Tantu Totem Master's Death Cart loadout, which unless you've got a specific reason not to, is sort of the basic loadout for any specialist. And just because you're doing damage over time, she's still a specialist. The third obvious choice would be Quake Engine, which not only increases damage over time, it can restart it on whoever's in, and it can also increase the amount of damage that her special does. Now, if you don't have those options, if you don't have the Tantu Totem Master's Death Cart, other options would be something that would increase her power generation to give her more specials, or something that gives her more damage over time, because her passive will apply to any damage over time she applies, even if it's not just from her special and it comes from gear. So Heart of Darkness is interesting because it gives you extra damage over time and it gives you power generation, which satisfies both requirements. Also interesting is that her special too, like all characters who have a special that has a secondary effect, it's reduced, but only a little bit, and it has a bleed effect. So normally how the stat works is that if your attack stat is whatever number, then the amount of damage that you do on your special 2 is twice that. So Catwoman gets 1.5 times instead of twice. But that's still much better than other characters who only give basically the attack stat as the max special 2 damage. So Arkham Killer Croc or Regime Superman. Regime Superman is unblockable special 2. And he does a ridiculously small amount of damage. Basically as if you had completely blocked it every single time to make it unblockable, which really sucks. The main danger, which is really any kind of general danger when you're playing a character that relies on damage over time, is if you're trying to use her against a Blackest Night Flash team, where the damage over time will cause the opponent to gain more power and get their health back. The other one is Injustice 2 Aquaman, who can reflect the damage over time back to you doubled. That's pretty dangerous. So the good thing about Catwoman compared to other damage over time specialists is that her special 2 does enough damage that by the time he has a chance to build up power and reflect it, there's a possibility that you've already knocked him out because you're just doing so much more damage. One thing we're going to try to do differently, because it's a Phantom Zone week, and we usually try to do Phantom Zone footage, what you're seeing, I think, will be just play footage this week of Arkham Knight Catwoman on an Arkham Knight team, just to show you how good she is. The only sort of spanner in the works is that we're going to be at Cinelation in Montreal this week, so it's a convention, which means we're not going to have as much time to do grinding. So we might not even have new footage for the Phantom Zone, and we might be working with more of the Arkham Knight Catwoman footage that we've been playing with this week. So the summary for that is, we've had 2 complete runs of a 43-week cycle that started May 2020. This is the 21st week in the 3rd cycle for a total of 107 weeks. If the pattern holds, next week is going to be Blackest Night Martian Manhunter. And we still have 23 challenge characters missing since May 2020. So for 2 years, there's 23 characters that have not shown up at all, at least that long for those characters. This week's multiplayer reward is Cloak of Destiny. And when it's maxed, it has a crit boost of 50% more damage on critical attacks, 200% damage increase against stunned opponents, and 20% stun chance on tag-in. Last available November the 4th, 2021. That's 2 complete cycles of a 31 reward sequence and the 13th week in the 3rd cycle. So in other words, we have 75 weeks in a row of a consistent pattern. And if the pattern holds, next week should be Blackest Night Flash. That's a nice coincidence. Both Blackest Night teammates. And yeah, unlike the challenge, we are not missing any of the multiplayer rewards in that cycle. So the interesting thing about Cloak of Destiny, what makes it really unique, for the longest time it was the only gear that offered boosted damage against stunned. And that was ridiculously powerful, taking a character that was pretty good, like Batgirl, who has a decent passive, and making her amazing. Now, you might argue that since Necron's Scythe was introduced, it is not as good in some ways. And if you look at Necron's Scythe, what you've got is the 200% increased damage against frozen or stunned opponents, so it's a little bit better. There's not a lot of characters that will freeze in their specials, so it adds a marginal increase in impact. And it doesn't have the increased crit damage. However, you get 40% power steal on basic attacks if your health is lower than 15%. You get a 40% life drain on basic attacks if your health is less than 15%. And you also get resurrect with 65% of your health back if you've knocked out one opponent. But if you're talking just damage output, Cloak has the edge because of the boosted crit damage. Now, if you're not planning on spending much of your fight with low health, 2 of Necron's abilities don't come into play. You can stack them though. If you do both, then you get both boosted stun damage, which is so much fun to play. The Cloak's chance to stun on tag-in is low, so even when it's maxed out, that's only 1 in 5 chance on tag-in that it will happen. So for a character that doesn't have a built-in stun, then you don't really get as much benefit out of the gear. And characters that have a built-in stun, you've got Luchador Bane, Earth 2 Flash and their teammates when they tag in, Batman and Static stun at the end of Special 1. Some characters will stun as part of their specials, and those are actually the best. Because when you can stun at the beginning or in the middle of a special, like all the Batgirls, they stun at the beginning of Special 1, super. Because you don't waste a lot of your Special 1 damage to stun them, and then you do a whole bunch of damage after that that's boosted. Batman Ninja Batman has a stun near the beginning of Special 2, so that he can do a huge amount of damage, the way, the Special 2 does. And if there's enough time in this footage, you'll see Arkham Knight Batgirl. The interesting thing about her is that when she whiffs on the second part of her Special 1, which happens a not insignificant amount of time, if you stack both the Scythe and the Cloak, and yes, they do stack, you don't do the Special 1 damage after you stun, but you can get a huge amount of basic damage with a swipe combo when your opponent stays stunned. So you whiff, but has the setup to stun, which is why we've geared Arkham Knight Batgirl with both Scythe, Cloak of Destiny, plus a basic damage boosting gear, instead of trying to lock in on her Special 1. And like we often say, doing more than enough to knock out your opponent is really, it's really just for show, unless you also do a big amount of splash or area effect. So it is a nice combination to use with League of Assassins knives on Batgirls. Maybe also with Fourth World Godly Mace, you do splash on Special 2 for Batman Ninja Batman. In the store, okay, further corroboration for next week being Blackest Night Martian Manhunter is a Blackest Night Martian Manhunter pack. It is for credits, 200,000, versus you compare it to 150,000 for the regular challenge pack. And what that does, that extra 50,000 boosts your chance of getting Blackest Night Martian Manhunter to 6.16% instead of 2.86%. The problem is there's lots of other good characters, and unless you're looking only for this one character, which you really shouldn't because he's going to be coming next week, then what you're doing is you're paying way too much credits. If you're selling everybody else back, yeah, it's a slightly better deal, but if there's even one or two other guys that you want, or one or two other characters you want, then you're better off actually just buying the regular challenge pack. The other new pack this week is a Character Bundle Flash TV. It's $24.99. It was available as recently as January of this year for the same price for a couple weeks, and also August of last year. You get MetaHuman the Flash and Reverse Flash. They're pretty good. They are multiplayer. Yeah, it's hard to say exclusives anymore because they are available in some cash packs, but that's the way they're normally available through the course of the game. Most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people don't spend a lot of money, which is part of what makes Injustice great, because it's not a pay to win game. But yeah, you know, if you're going to be paying for characters, the best deals are going to be coming like this when you get characters that are not already available in the store. Speaking of which, second week of the Metropolis pack, full of characters who are all available in the store, which means this pack is not worth it at all. We've got the same Survivor pack for another 22nd week. We've got the Character Bundle Batman Universe for the 27th week, and the Most Wanted pack for the 34th week. The Celebration packs for Nth Metal have been around for 20 weeks for Joker and Shazam and 22 weeks for Aquaman. So it's a really, when is this party ever going to end? When is this celebration going to end? It's a pretty long celebration. Not that I'm complaining, actually. I like the fact that the store has so many more options than it used to when they'd cycle one or two packs. I don't like that most of them are for cash. And our Survivor is the Fourth World gear set for another week until the 15th of June. And Phantom Zone, mentioned earlier, is back for another 2 weeks. Fight 62 is still broken. Last week's breakthrough was the Joker, Nightwing, and Darkseid as expected for the golds. This coming weekend is probably going to be for Zod, Aquaman, and Shazam. Link in the description to a Reddit thread from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And that's it. We used to do a recap of all the glitches because they haven't changed for so long. We're only going to do a more detailed discussion once a month, the first week of each month, which was last week on the 2nd of June, or we're going to do it when there's any kind of significant change, which there hasn't been. The only thing that we will confirm is that the challenge reset does work on the current Arkham Knight Catwoman challenge. And that's it. So a big thank you to our patrons on Patreon, and that would be BomboBen, Consul Peasant, and Edwoon at the top tier Last Word, Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier, Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, Eddydoo, and Hoshi 127, who are supporting us on the credited level, and Chris Wolff, Scarlet Dani, Awesomegamer 241, Pavu RS, Gavin Mallott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Komoda.